We are now back from executive session, and we are now at the portion of our meeting of board correspondence. We did receive, and I think everybody received a copy of a letter from our diversity club pertaining to the mascot, expressing their support for the resolution that's on tonight's agenda about the mascot. That's all the correspondence that we have right now today. And so our next portion of our agenda is our update on progress. So I'm gonna pass that off to administration, and I think we're gonna have some, you said you're sharing.
Yes, I'm letting the administrators in.
Okay.
So that they can present. So I do ask for your guys' patience with this, as we're obviously trying a new format tonight. And because for everyone to be able to control the PowerPoint, I would have to make them host and they would have to reshare the screen each time. I am going to control the PowerPoint, and they'll just kind of prompt me when they want me to select a link or switch slides. So
okay,
I'm just going to let them in.
All righty.
Let's see here. And I see I have, so some folks, this is nice that everyone signed on. Some of you, not everyone will be speaking, but a good majority of you. I have one person in the waiting room that says Holmes iPad. I'm assuming that's not one of our administrators. Are we missing anyone? We'll find out, I guess, when we get to their section.
I believe that's our former.
Our former, I'm sorry, who? You know what? Mike's not on here yet. D'Alessio.
Could that be him?
I don't know. I feel like when he's done Zoom, though, it always says his name. For all of us, it generally says our name. We'll just give him another minute. He's early on in the presentation as well. Unless that's his
he's the one who goes after me.
Yes. You know what? I wonder.
Want me to send him a text?
Yeah, and find out, because if maybe he's using a different device at home.
He just texted me, so I think he's on.
That could be him. All right. I'm going to let him in. I'm going to let that person in and ask.
Trust.
Yes. We shall find out. I just let somebody in whose Zoom name is Holmes iPad. Can you identify who you are? It doesn't look like they have sound or video yet. So it's possible that's not Mike.
I'll text him again.
Okay.
I just sent him one myself.
He's the only one, I believe, that we're waiting for. Welcome, everyone. It's so nice to see all of you. Thank you for joining us. I'll start with a brief introduction. I'm going to go ahead and share the presentation. So just so everyone's aware, this is a little bit different than it's been in the past, partially because of some of the lack of data due to the obviously different structure of the school year and the fact that we did not have the state assessments last year, but also some of it, specific.
Liz?
Yes.
Dr. Joe, sorry. I'm on the phone with Michael D'Alessio. He can't get on. Are you coming in as He's coming in as Mike DeLessio.
He's not in the waiting room.
You're not
So
in the waiting room.
Must have the wrong link.
yeah, make sure he's on the correct link.
I don't know. You're talking to the wrong person. I know nothing about it.
Tell him to connect through the Watchung Hills website link. That works better than the link that we got in the email. So go through the website, go to whrhs.org and connect that way.
Didn't pop up.
Or contact Anthony.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Contact Anthony.
Okay, I'll
I'm
keep,
sorry, Dr. Joe. He says he's waiting. He'll work on it. So,
okay, yeah, he's not in the waiting room.
okay.
I'm gonna relaunch Zoom and see.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
thanks, Mike. I'll keep looking for him in the waiting room, but we can get started. So what we did revamp some of the school counseling slides. You'll notice when Mr. Sabino presents in terms of some of the college data we're presenting, but also just so you're aware, so this is normally this presentation serves a couple of purposes. We usually review our strategic plan goals and the progress we've made. We go through the student performance data, and then we have each of the supervisors present on what their departments have done towards the strategic plan goals and what their plans are for this year. So we did adjust some of that a little bit with the regard to the student performance data. We are still required to do this report as per state guidelines and as per CUSAC monitoring, which we are actually going through this year. So fortunately at the high school, we do have other assessments that we report on in addition to NJSLA on an annual basis. So you'll notice that NJSLA are not included with the exception of the 2019 science assessment, because those results came out after our presentation last year. So just keep in mind, those results are from 2 groups of students ago, but we are required to report them publicly. So that's why they're part of this presentation. And what we did a little differently as well is we broke down the AP scores into subgroups, which Mike DeLessio will speak about as well, because generally we do that with the NJSLA scores, but again, we did not have those. So we use some of our other data to break it down a little bit differently. With regard to the strategic plan, in our meeting 2 weeks from tonight, we will be presenting the draft plan. We're meeting with the board strategic plan committee tomorrow to go through that. And I appreciate our staff members gave us a lot of valuable feedback that was also shared with the committee that we will discuss tomorrow. However, as the board is aware, our previous strategic plan goals are obviously still very relevant because the themes that the board agreed upon over the summer for the new strategic plan are directly linked to our former strategic plan goals. So I have those on here just because our new ones, are proposed and have been shared with the committee, but have not been formally approved yet. So in terms of speaking about some of the different things tonight related to our instructional model since March, when we had to shift to a rather non-traditional instructional model, these goals certainly still played a part in our planning. The first one related to social and emotional wellness, the second one related to post-secondary planning, and then the third one related to creative, innovative, and interdisciplinary learning. So what the supervisors are going to be talking about tonight, instead of their usual presentation, they're going to highlight for the board how their various content areas have creatively addressed the learning needs and instructional needs and the new hybrid instructional model that we have implemented this year. And I've said it at prior board meetings, and I know board members have echoed these sentiments as well, but I really credit our staff with how flexible they have been and how they have navigated a rather unique and challenging situation. Having students in the classroom and having students virtually is certainly not an easy thing to navigate. And I think they have done so very artfully and had a very smooth transition. And I was in a number of classrooms today And, the teachers have really gotten the hang of facilitating students at home and students in their classroom, and having them interact with each other. So I'm very, very proud of the way that they have approached all of this. And so you'll get to see some of the different tools that the different subject areas are using to help facilitate that learning. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our principal, Mr. Librera.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. Like Dr. Jewett said, we as the administration team here at the high school, we're going to speak on a variety of topics to hopefully shed some light on the accomplishments of last year and how things are going in this current year. But to begin, as Dr. Jewett alluded to, I believe it's important to start in the spring of last year when remote learning actually began. When we went out on remote learning in mid-March, we had no idea that we'd be in the same pandemic 8 months later. But due to the unknown situation of all the different households and how they would be coping with that in the last spring, we opted for an asynchronous instruction model. But then when the signs kept on pointing to a continued absence from the building, we implemented new and different methods to increase virtual engagement for the students, faculty's emotional and educational benefit. And although it was really difficult, it was our goal to maintain consistency in our offerings and our programs. So obviously, because of this situation, we had to pivot to a full virtual platform, but we are very proud to have been able to continue to celebrate our students at our various Honor Society induction ceremonies. We had a National Honor Society, a World Language Honor Society, an Arts Honor Society. Through the help of our PAC production team, we streamed both our senior and community award programs. Mr. Sabino in the school counseling office was able to offer college night webinars. We were able to follow up our March Against Hate event from the fall when we had a virtual community forum through our DEI initiative. We hosted a virtual interactive 9th grade orientation night so that our incoming freshmen would know a little bit more about what it was to become a Watchung Hill warrior. And we were able to safely distribute caps and gowns, yearbooks, collect textbooks from students so that we did not need to order any textbooks for the current year, which I think was a tremendous accomplishment. In terms of honoring our seniors, we were able to work within the guidelines to host 2 different events. The senior clap out, which is what I have pictured on that slide, was an unbelievable success. You can see how many cars are lined up. And it was actually at one point, I remember jokingly asking Dr. Jewett if we had other schools present because it was such an immense turnout. And then we had at the end one formal graduation that enabled the senior class to come together one last time as a whole. I don't know if it was immediately after or during or right before, but right around then we began working on 2020-21. And we had numerous committees were formed to begin to discussing possible improvements in different formats for the upcoming year. We had great participation from various stakeholders, students, faculty, staff, and parents, as well as the administration team. And from the feedback and the goal of increasing engagement in instruction, we moved to one specific big change to highlight is that we went to a synchronous early dismissal model with each student being required to have their camera on when learning virtual. And I believe some of the supervisors will speak more to this when they start going into how this is being done so well in the classroom, as Dr. Drew alluded to earlier. Anthony Maluso and his technology team worked tirelessly with our faculty to implement resources that enhance and improve the educational instruction and experience. And from that, we've been able to build on the virtual events that we offered last spring with additional school counseling webinars this year, another 9th grade orientation in September that we were able to stream to those that weren't able to attend. We had our first ever virtual back to school night. In the past 2 months, we found different ways to continue to offer testing opportunities for our students that may not have an opportunity last year due to the circumstances. We offered a school-only ACT testing date in September. We were a host school for the October SAT. We just offered in mid-October a PSAT to both our 10th and 11th grade class. Just recently, we did a seal of biliteracy exam, and today we did an AccuPlacer exam. We've been distributing books and supplies to all our virtual learners and continue to organize ways for students that are not in the building to get items and supplies that will be beneficial to their learning. Furthermore, we've Also had our various clubs and activities that have begun, and I've been looking to use the extension of the hybrid learning model for that implementation, where we are trying to have an in-person component for those that are interested and that can benefit from the social emotional piece, but also continue to have a virtual piece for those that do not feel comfortable coming in or would better benefit from being outside. Our fall athletics and marching band have been meeting since this summer and are in the process of completing their season in the coming weeks. Huge thanks to Mr. Bertelli, Mr. Root in the athletic office for that, Mrs. Valerio in the nurse's office with their consistent efforts to ensure the safe experience for all the students have been absolutely tremendous. Thursday actually marks the end of marking period 1. And to say that we have gone to this point of the school year healthy and with accomplishing everything that I've alluded to speaks volume to the faculty, staff, and administration that we have here at Watchung Hills High School, and truly is something that we want to be celebrate and be proud of. And that's a little about the hybrid learning. And at this point, we can go on and to start talking about some of our data for the 1920. I will eventually pass this over to Mike DeLessio, provided that he is on. But I'm going to speak about on the next slide, Dr. Jewett, is our national merit recognition.
And Mr. DeLessio has joined us, just so you're aware.
Outstanding. Thank you. So as you can see on this slide, it's our recognition over the last 6 years. Some things to bring attention to. Last year, all of our semifinalists were recognized as finalists, which speaks to their ability and performance. This year, we were recognized 41 students and an impressive 11 semifinalists. So we're eagerly await to figure out how many of those can move on to be considered finalists. This is a sharp improvement from the previous 2 years and brings us back to the high landmark year of 2018, where we had such high numbers. So we're definitely heading in the right direction. So great performance from our national merits, and we're looking forward to getting more information on them when it becomes available and celebrating with our students. And at this point, I'm going to turn the microphone or presentation over to Mr. Mike DeLessio, our science supervisor and director of assessment, who can speak to about our SATs over the 3 past years.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. As everybody can hear me, I'm hoping. I just had some technology issues on my side. So what you're seeing right now is our 3-year SAT trend, where you see R scores, which are our combined math and really English language arts, or your reading and writing sections, along with how we've done against New Jersey. So we've had a slight decrease the last 3 years. That always is something that can take place with regard to different classes and how many students are taking the test. But these are the last 3 years of our SAT data. To tag team along with that, in the next slide is our 3-year ACT analysis, which has actually gone up a bit for us the last year, from 26.3 to 26.5. Again, we're way higher than the state average. The ACT is a test that's composed of reading, grammar, mathematics, and science, and we continue to see more and more students take that test versus the ACT, versus the SAT. Still have more SAT test takers, but ACT is not too far behind. Our next slide is our AP tests, and I believe Ms. Phelan, are you going to do the AP tests, or I'm going to come back to other slides? She's going to do the AP tests, I believe.
Sure, Michael. We're very happy you're here. Good evening. This slide is always to demonstrate our last 5 years. And so we're particularly proud of the fact that we had 482 5s and 400 4s this year. So we can continue because I know we have a full agenda. So the next slide will be the percentage of students 3 or above on our AP tests. Although we suffered the slight drop, as you can see in this graph, 94% last year to 89% this year, we learned a lot through the experience. And we also have to keep the context very clear that when we left in March, to Bill's earlier point, we anticipated it would be a 3-week quarantine, and we would come back stronger than ever. Unfortunately, that did not happen, and we had to move from a paper pencil test and task to an online task. So we are pleased that we were able to do as well as we did. And we have set our expectations higher this year, having had that experience. If we look at the next slide, this is one of the board's favorite slides, I know, because it actually breaks down our strengths and our weaknesses. We continue to do well in computer science, calculus. Our physics scores were very impressive, as were this year our US history and government. And we want to do a shout out for world language because that was one of the areas that we did focus on for the last 2 years. And both Italian and Spanish have come up to almost match Chinese. Additionally, since we're very focused on how we can improve, we still have econ and English Lit in our sites for this year. And we were all surprised by Human Geo. But we've talked to all the teachers, we believe, with more intervention. And we have now, again, as Bill said, worked very closely with Anthony Maluso, and we have wonderful resources technologically. So if, in fact, we take another online test, we feel that we will, as my kids say, crush it. And the next slide is the 5-year summary. And again, board members who have been here since Ms. Jewett or have Dr. Jewett or have arrived in the last 3 years know that we pride ourselves on always achieving a 4.0. So as the mathematicians in the group remind me, we were very close this year, and we're particularly proud of the fact that we had more AP students this year than we had last year. And that really speaks to the teachers, again, the preparation and the grit of our students. And if you think about our present strategic plan and our strategic plan going forward, one of the nuggets is to enable our students to experience success, both in the classroom and beyond. So the next slide, I know is always confusing because someone says, well, how can you be an AP scholar with honor and not a national scholar? So the breakdown is right on the slide, but what we like to celebrate is for this year that we only dropped our total scholars by 10 students. And we had more students achieve AP Scholar with honor than we had previously. So we're, very proud of that when you think about the challenging environment, as Dr. Jewett introduced our presentation tonight with. And then finally, I always like to close on how proud we are of our 29 national scholars, because that means those students had taken at least 8 AP scores and received a 4 or higher, so a 4 or a 5, which is, standing ovation. So thank you. And I'm going to give it back to Mike DeLesio, since he's going to talk about the AP data in the subgroups for our testing. Thank you very much.
So one of the things we get from the College Board is our overall AP data by subgroups. We can filter these out through different controls that we have through their website, and it's very helpful. So this is looking at all the subgroups that are provided by the College Board for AP. A star indicates subgroups that are less than 20 students, and these subgroups are broken down by the College Board, and the number of 5s, 4s, 3s, 2s, and 1s on all of our tests last year. So you can look at breakdowns that way. I'll give you a second to look at it. Sorry. The next slide is similar in that it's breaking down our AP Science data by subgroup. Again, stars indicate less than 20 people, 20 students per subgroup. Those that are greater than 20, we have the numbers there for everyone to see. We also did have this for our math tests, which include our calculus exams, statistics, and computer science. Again, all the subgroups 5, 4, 3, 2s, and 1s right from the College Board data. And this is our ELA data subgroup for English Language Arts. Again, broken down by the subgroups given to us by the College Board. So we have every year when we get our scores in the summer, it's a big rush to look at them, to data crunch them, and so forth, and to look at some interventions and strategies. Ms. Phelan's going to talk about a few, and then I'll come back and talk about a few within some things that we've come up with this year with the AP teachers.
Thank you, Michael. Actually, Jason Sabino is going to take it from here.
Hey, good evening, everyone. How are you this evening? Thank you for having me. So this slide is speaking to some of the strategies and approaches we've took to support students with standardized testing and regards to different responses to how we prepared students. Mike, I'm sure you can jump in at some point as well to speak a bit about what we've done for the support the students and the teachers with the AP exams and the coordinator responsibilities that we have this year. But we have certainly worked to utilize, as you see here on this slide, a number of different resources and approaches to make sure we provide not only time, but additional assessment, ways to assess and support students for weaknesses they may be having with their prior performance on assessments, and making sure we're finding ways to identify those individual areas they need to grow in. So Mike has done a great job, and the rest of the team has done a great job to work and support students utilizing a number of these approaches here. In addition to, I'm sure you're all aware of the way we individualize student scheduling so that students are placed in courses that challenge them, but also allow them to work on areas that they maybe need to grow in, and also they can further excel in. So this just speaks to a variety of different approaches that we provide here in the school district to support students.
Thank you.
Mike, did you want to jump back in for the NJ SLA?
Sure, yes. So I'm not sure if everybody knows about this test. In late May and early June of the junior year of students throughout the state of New Jersey, the Department of Ed asks school districts at the high school level to test students in what they call NJSLA science assessments, New Jersey State Learning Assessments in the sciences. So obviously during the pandemic this year, we did not have a 2020 NJSLA science assessment. So we're reporting on the 2019 tests. And, you know, there's not a lot of data on these. These tests are not required for graduation. However, we encourage our students to take it, and we do get a high percentage of juniors taking this. And there's scale scores and that are given 4 different levels, and you can see our average, level 1 being the lowest and level 4 being the highest, versus the New Jersey scaled score, and how students, the percentage wise across the state in each of those levels. You know, the warning with this test is that it is at the end of the year. It is a little difficult to have motivated students take it because it's not a graduation requirement. Although, you know, our students we do have a high percentage of students taking it, more than 90%. It's a little difficult, and colleagues that I've talked to at other schools also have difficulty, you know, getting students to, you know, to take a test that maybe not really count toward a graduation assessment or anything in terms of a transcript. However, our students do participate well, and we're above the state average in the levels that matter and the scaled score. We don't get any other feedback really regarding this test, because it's mostly, I think, a pilot test really for a possibility that when a state science assessment may count toward graduation.
I think this is back to me. Thank you. So this is a little overview slide, a little intro slide here on the school counseling department. We're working to update our title and vernacular here. To be clear, we still provide guidance to all of our students, but certainly the emphasis on the school counseling component, not only are we providing academic advisement, but we certainly provide routinely and daily social emotional support to all students. So hence that title change there. If you look at these pictures, I think it's just worthwhile taking a moment, Ms. Jewett, thanks, just to see what it looks like. Certainly there's some things that translate and remain the same, but no doubt I thought it was worthwhile to share a little photo there of both the counselor meeting in person via Zoom, which we've all come quite accustomed to, and still picking up the phone, which I still feel is an extremely effective way to communicate, and certainly better and prefer to email, at least from my opinion. So if we want to move on to the next slide, we can jump into a bit of the.
Mr. Sabino, you just reminded me of an important disclaimer that I wanted to put out there. So I appreciate you including very current pictures to show folks, what our new normal is, so to speak. But if you see pictures in the other supervisors' slides where students are in groups without their masks on, though, that's because those are pictures from prior years. So I don't want anyone to think that that is representative of what's occurring right now. So just so everyone is aware of that. And I will advance the slide for you now.
And just to be clear, those pictures with masks are from this year. We were not wearing masks 2 years ago in the building, to my knowledge. So for the 2020 hybrid model highlights, so what are we doing here this year in the school counseling department? We're continuing to provide one-on-one sessions and conferences for students. No surprise to all of you on the call. We are starting off, and we started off with the seniors regarding post-secondary and college planning. We continue, as I mentioned earlier, to provide students with academic, social, and emotional support on a daily basis. We meet with new students transitioning to the district. There have been quite amount of students who did arrive here at Watchung Hills Regional High School that were not freshmen, came in about, I want to say it's around 20, 25 students at this point, have transitioned in as sophomores, juniors, and seniors that we're continuing to support and transition here in this interesting time. And we're just starting off with freshman conferences, and we'll continue with sophomore and junior conferences throughout the course of the school year, both for post-secondary advisement purposes and also academic planning. I think it's important to also note we have regular meetings with students with accommodation plans, both Section 504 and INRT, which is our process that we deliver currently INRS services to students. And we've hosted over 80 college rep visits to students. The way we've done that this year is utilizing that 1:30 to 3:30 time. Again, no surprise to anybody on the call. It's being done by Zoom, where we have the college reps meeting with the students and with our school counseling staff. Interesting, the second bullet there, that was a lot for the first bullet, I apologize, but for the second bullet here, school counseling webinars held virtually. We have had a number of presentations already this school year, including the class of 2020 senior night, financial aid night, class of 2021 junior night, and we've done freshman class presentations during the PSAT testing. It's important, and I think it's interesting to see that we've had an increased turnout compared to numbers from prior years. I'm sure you can all imagine with the ease of the virtual attendance option to do from your home, it's good to see that increased turnout and participation. For some of our evenings, we've had over 300 attendees on the calls. So some things will be here to stay, I'm sure, post-COVID, and I'm imagining we'll continue to find opportunities to provide this stuff, these opportunities and these presentations to parents at home, even when we return to some form of normalcy, hopefully in the future. Social emotional support as provided by our student assistance counselors. This year, we have increased the number of evening presentations. We're providing 4 quarterly evening presentations focused on social emotional wellness. We had our first presentation last night called Parenting in 2020. And I was on the call and I found it valuable. We had partnered with some licensed clinicians in the area, and they did a great job with some tips on how to parent in all things COVID and helping to support students. That's also been recorded, and we continue to post those on the website for further access and reference for parents and students alike. Our stacks are also providing wellness groups. One of the wellness groups they're looking to run and we've been promoting is called the Secret to Calm group, which is a group that is focused on managing stress, being mindful, reviewing tips, tricks, and coping strategies for students. And important to mention that fourth bullet there, that we have a continued partnership with Care Plus. As I'm sure many of you board members know, and the supervisors on the call, we provide, Care Plus has a licensed full-time clinician here in the building with us full-time, who provides a number of support services to our students with both chronic or acute mental wellness concerns. They conduct assessments for us for students in crisis, and including a number of self-harm alerts that we've already received this year, either through electronic means or some other, or through, you know, the word of mouth or referrals to our office. We've also had professional development for our school counseling staff with outside agencies and services that are provided through Somerset County. In addition, the final bullet here is to keep us updated on what we're doing this last few months. We have at 50.3% of our class of 2021 had submitted college applications as November 1st. I looked at it earlier today and it's at 52.1% if anybody wants to know the most updated numbers. And that'll segue us to the next slide, Dr. Jewett. Thank you. Here, I think it was important to continue to share, as my predecessors have, in regards to the 5-year trends. So you'll see for 4-year college-bound students, it's at 80.6 this last graduating class, which looks like 2019 was the high at 82. We, no surprise, received a number of students from the class of 2020 that reached out to us mid-summer to update that their post-secondary plans have changed despite due to some things COVID. That appeared from my looking at it. It was mostly students choosing in-state versus going out-of-state institutions, but certainly something important to note and be aware of. We have about 14% of our students attending 2-year schools, mostly Raritan Valley College, and a sprinkle of students at County College of Morris. As I will mention in the next few slides, the value is not only to identify where students are going, but what programs they are intending on studying when they get there. You'll see I'll be speaking about that this evening and throughout the presentations in the years to come, to work on getting cleaner and clearer data on the additional factors from the graduating classes about what they're planning on to study in addition to where they're going to study, and getting tracking that information for our alumni and our graduates in the classes that have graduated years before. If you want to move to the next slide, Dr. Jewett, I will just review quickly the top colleges and universities that our class of 2020 have attended. I thought it was important to show this attendance list. As you see there, the class of 2020, the top school that our students, 39 of our class of 2020 students attended was Whrhs University in New Brunswick. And you see that highlighted there for the top 12 schools that our students have attended, which represents 37% of our class. So you'll see Rutgers University, Seton Hall, Indiana University in Bloomington, Penn State University, Kane, the College of New Jersey, University of Maryland, College Park, Montclair State, Northeastern, University of Delaware, University of Rhode Island, and Westchester University were the top schools our students attended from the class of 2020. If you want to move on to the next slide, Dr. Jewett. This slide shows, I thought it was important to continue this data analysis. This slide was initially created last year from the interim Julie Patterson, who was covering the post here prior to my arrival. But I thought it was a good analysis of showing, again, not only the schools our students were choosing to attend, but where they fell in regards to the competitive level and basically the selectiveness of the schools for the students to be accepted and attend these schools. So I tried to highlight some examples on this slide for further reference of what schools our students chose to top attend and most often attended from these different categories. But I certainly want to note that the class of 20 graduates also attended Ivy and top tier schools that are not on these lists, including UPenn, Cornell, Yale, Caltech, Carnegie Mellon, MIT, University of Chicago, Case Western, and a number more that are not on these slides. My goal is to get this information to the students and the families in any way possible to make sure they have decisions on the programs and schools they may want to consider in the years to come. And I think it's helpful to see this information in addition to those scattergrams they could access in Naviance that shows the acceptance, the declines, and that other data I'm sure you're familiar with receiving in prior year presentations. I think that's the final slide for me. I just wanted to mention that on November 24th, we'll be speaking more about the strategic goal plans for programs and initiatives through 2025. And with that, I am pleased to introduce Mrs. Beth Scheiderman, Director of HR and Professional Development.
Thank you, Mr. Sabino. Good evening. My photos are obviously from a previous school year, but represent some enjoyable times in professional learning, professional development. And we can go to the next slide. This year's been unusual, and like everything else with the coronavirus situation that we are in, we've had some benefits and of course some challenges. New educator orientation occurred in August, as it always does, and it was in person. It gave us the opportunity to welcome people into the building and implement our safety and health precautions, and it was done very successfully. Very small groups with the new teachers and the administrative team rotating through and providing all of the training that we normally provide for the new educators. And the mentoring team was present as well, Carl Bird and Sean New, and they have continued supporting the new teachers as the school year has been underway. Our opening days were certainly different. We did all 4, as you recall, rather than 2 and 2 more in October. There was a focus certainly on the technology, so teachers were becoming comfortable with the new synchronous instruction. We were able, with the support of the staff in the PAC and again, the administration and the faculty as a whole, able to do synchronous PD on those 4 days. So in the PAC, we had our usual convocation and celebrations and acknowledgements and sharing of information. We also provided the health and safety training. Our school nurses came in and provided that training. Care Plus, along with Jason Sabino, arranged for training for faculty on social and emotional wellness for the faculty and the students under these very stressful times and situations and feelings of social isolation to help combat that. The departments work together, and Anthony Maluso also, his department has just done an amazing job of providing online resources for technology. So the teachers were in a good place when we opened to get everything up and running and welcoming the students into the building. And those efforts have continued with the ongoing professional development, particularly in the afternoons, Technology Tuesdays. Fridays are being well used for collaboration among the faculty. Wednesdays focused on departmental and district initiatives, as well as, of course, in the afternoons, providing extra support to students. And as the technology focus doesn't need to be so much at the forefront as we go on, we're looking to include more training on DEI and the PLC time for the faculty as well. So it's been successful, thanks to a lot of people who are working very hard and being very supportive. So thank you.
Good evening, everyone. We could advance to the next slide. The English department has worked to seize some of the opportunities the hybrid model affords us to engage students and to personalize learning. By early summer, we'd become pretty adept at running class sessions via Zoom, and we used this platform to expand our summer college application essay workshops. We ran 2 online synchronous writing workshops, one in late June and one in early August, and served approximately 70 students. The main activity of each workshop, providing individualized feedback on student writing and supporting students worked to draft, revise, and edit their essays. We're also making effective use of the existing features in Google Classroom to support instruction and assessment. And we're folding in new apps like Flipgrid for students to create and respond to each other's videos, and Jamboard for students at home to collaborate with students in school on shared online documents in real time during a class session. In another effort to personalize learning, we've used time in the afternoon systematically to contact all students who had difficulty with distance learning in the spring, so we could intervene and provide academic support through individual online conferences. If we could advance that slide. This is a snapshot of a hybrid classroom artifact. It's an assessment of close reading. The teacher posted this poem, among others, for students to read and examine as a Google Classroom assignment. That poem is in the center. Students then use the highlight and the comment tools to annotate the poem. It's a visual snapshot of close reading with the students running commentary over there in the right-hand column, demonstrated in highlights, but also in the marginal comments. Hybrid learning has its challenges, to be clear, but our uses of time and technology also present us with some opportunities to really personalize learning and to help students make their thinking visible. Anita Falvo will speak with you next about hybrid learning highlights from the Social Studies Department.
Thank you, Mr. Aquavia. Good evening, everyone. Okay, Dr. Jewett, if you could maybe go to the next slide. So I wanted to focus on two things today, especially. One of the things that we were concerned about in social studies was how are we going to cover all the content that we need to do within a year and not having as much time to do it because of the revised schedule on the hybrid learning. I am so proud that we spent our first 4 days, that we had department time together. We're spending department meetings, really trying to figure out the balance between the content and our historical thinking skills. And we've sort of come to a medium where we understand that we want to focus on the skills and then build the content around it. And it's working terrifically. A lot of the teachers are also using some of the same technologies that Mr. Aquavia mentioned, in addition to some of the other ones that I mentioned here, and they're continuing to experiment with them and implement them into their classrooms. So what I wanted to sort of show you today was some of the actual projects that have been done in some of these classrooms to combine the skill building, which is talking about synthesis and interpretation and analysis, with these great creative projects that some of the teachers have come up with. So I had a lot to choose from. And maybe Dr. Joe, we could just go through real quickly, just kind of clicking on each one, so that hopefully, okay. So this was something that was actually done at the end of last year by one of our newer teachers. And if you just scroll down, you can just see each student was given a topic from World War I and asked to make sort of memorial towards that group or those people, and then do a little summary of that particular example. So I just thought this was a really neat one because it really got the students to look at very specific ideas that they may not have done in class when we cover a more overarching idea of the American or the World War I or II, I'm sorry. Next one. This one was really neat when I saw this one. One of the teachers had her students compare, so this is the skill of continuity and change over time, the 1950s teenagers' lifestyle when they were studying the 50s in US too, to what they do today. So you can just kind of scroll down just to kind of give a glimpse. I know you guys will probably have this PowerPoint to see it if you want to look, but just to see the very differences between TV shows and dress and things like that. The next one is using one of the technologies where the students are actually interacting. So even though you can't see the interaction on here because I didn't put the whole Jamboard slide thing, but on the side you can see the tools that they use and they can kind of move. It's almost like a game sort of thing, but then it gets the kids to associate different countries with, we have McDonald's in a lot of different countries around the world, and yet they serve different things based on different diets, different restrictions. So it was kind of a neat activity, just a real quick opener for the day. This one is what Mr. Aquavia too was talking about, Jamboard, where they actually have what they call sticky notes, and the teacher put that image of an Indian god. They were studying the Hindu gods, and asked the students to comment about what they saw. So you can kind of see the difference in their reactions, which was also an opener for one of the classes. And then the last one is something that is used for human geography, and you can just kind of scroll down that. The teacher took a long time to design these for each of her units. And through this, she's still able to get the content and the skills out as an interactive notebook, so that the students are using their Chromebooks and filling out notes, but also being required to fill in things themselves when they have to analyze something. So if they look at the map and they're asked a question and they can discuss it, and this is all online and interactive. So I just wanted you to see that there are so many different ideas that we're using, whether it's the technologies or the creative skills of the teachers, and that it's not the easiest thing we've ever done. It's difficult to have students online and students in the classroom, but again, I'm proud that they're using these, they're initiating different activities to keep the students engaged. And even though they're on the computer for a lot of the day, they're doing things that are encouraging them to think a lot. So without further ado, I will introduce Mr. Brad Comerford, the Supervisor of PE Health and World Languages.
Thank you very much, Ms. Stein.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. This is a look at what is happening currently in health and PE. And you've heard many of our supervisors this evening talk about these things. It's technology and innovation for us, and that has led to greater collaboration for both audiences, whether they're virtual or the in-school cohorts. We do use Jamboard in the first example you see there. If you click on relationship progression, this was done in our Health 9 curriculum. Much like you've seen, these are sticky notes, as we've mentioned before. Students are asked to talk about, in this case, relationships and how relationships progress. This is a topic that we introduce in Health 9 because it leads into the real idea of interpersonal communication, learning how to talk with other people, listen to other people, understand where they're coming from, and finding out things about yourself in the interim. So the idea behind this was to talk about the relationship. Ms. Jewett, if you can move to slide 2 up above, you see the arrow? Nope. There you go, thank you. So then they're asked a series of questions, and this is the trampoline to the greater discussion in the classroom. This allows us to really get into and delve into the idea of what relationships are, what relationships they have currently experienced themselves, or what they can hope to experience as they progress through high school and after high school. If you could go back now to the next one. Flipgrid is something we use a lot in health PE. No, could you go? Yes, and this was with respect to me slogan. If you can open that up, you're not able to open that. This is the idea behind it, was to be able to talk about what is respect. Here we go, thank you. What is respect? And this is something that the students create. Flipgrid is directly connected to YouTube. You can download YouTube videos and manipulate those videos via Flipgrid. But one of the additional aspects of Flipgrid allows you to have the students or the teacher create their own video. So this was an example from Ms. Bassini's class. This is a typical example of what happens in Health 9. All of the Health 9 teachers do a similar project. What is respect? There were 3 different options for them to choose from. And if you click on the video, I know it's about a 3-minute video, but we'll only watch about 30 seconds. This is a video by students for students. And this is what they came up with for respect. Do you have sound? I don't know that the sound is there. Well, okay. It's if you're going to get a copy of this presentation, so if you'd like to see in more depth, you certainly may. But these are videos created, like I said, by students for students. And again, it's a stepping stone to a greater conversation on what respect is for different people and how they interpret it. Okay, Edpuzzle. Edpuzzle also allows us to connect to videos, and this one is on YouTube. This one is for Adventure Ed, And what we do here is we show them a video on, in this case, the different aspects of belaying that is part of our Adventure Ed program. And the video will automatically stop after a certain sequence and ask a question. It posits a question that the student would have to answer. So if you click on it just for a moment.
Can folks hear this or can I only hear this?
I can hear this one now.
Okay.
So this is a video that is online, available online.
Belay device to your harness, you can start belaying. So me as a right-handed person, I will always have my right hand on the brake rope the entire time when I'm belaying. Okay,
So then they go to a question and they're going to be talking about things that are involved in the process that they need to go through and emphasizing safety. If you have not actually seen our Adventure Ed course outside, it's something to visit. You're more than welcome to try. It's interesting. They are 40 to 50 feet in the air and when they're doing all of these things, and some of them really, really enjoy it. But this is how we get that collaborative idea inside the classroom and outside the classroom as to what they can expect. And then where it says complete weekly fitness log, this was created by all of the, no, you should have access because I've checked that before. But okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure, Brad, because it's me. I'm not sure if I'll be able to get on there.
This was created by the PE teachers. It allowed all of the students to access different types of workouts. So we have virtual students that come in every day. They're assigned a different activity, whether it be cardio exercises, accessory exercises, strength and fitness, general fitness, and they can follow along with a video where they see a very short video, a 20-second video. If you hit flutter kick, maybe that one will come up for us. This was a video that they see, they can experiment with the idea. This is what you are supposed to do. This is what good form looks like. And then they are to complete a series of activities with a number of repetitions. This is followed up by a Google form activity that they have to answer questions about what they saw and what they were able to complete. And of course, they report their findings. This has morphed into this year to an Ed puzzle activity where they add questions to the different video components. So the teacher can make sure that the student has actually viewed it. And it's not that they're expected to complete those activities like they see in the video, but to attempt them and see how well they do. Next slide, please. In world languages, and I'm showing you here the progression of three of them. This is a level 3, a level 4, 5, and then an AP course. And this is one language, but it represents all of them because all of them do this. This first one is a Kami application, and it's a fantastic tool for world languages. It allows you to upload a PDF document. So you see the poster on Mexico there that was created by the student. That is an interactive PDF document that they create. They can add video to it. They can add links to it to talk about, in this case, a specific country, because this was from a project from the Spanish Immersion in Culture 1 course. This is a student that is actually in her 3rd year of a world language, in this case in Spanish. And I'd just like you to hear a short 30 seconds of what she's able to produce after 3 years. If you could click on the arrow to your left there, thank you.
Proyecto, mi país es México. Okay. Está en América del Norte y la bandera es de color verde, blanco y rojo. El capital de México es Ciudad de México. Personas hablan en español con un dialecto mexicano. La población es 127.09
That's fine, thank you.
millones.
As you can see, the students upload their audio in this case. They don't have to include video, it's just an audio file. But this is representative of the fluency and fluidity that they attain in the program after their 2-year requirement. Those that continue on to years 3 and 4, whether that be a level 4 or level 5, depending on what they came in as freshmen. But she is right on target for advanced courses. She's very, very good. That was a very good sample. Jamboard, this is a level 4-5 activity. Again, you've seen Jamboard before. If you could hit on comparatives there, it says P2 comparatives. Here are the sticky notes again. We talk about how to describe something, and this is on using comparatives and superlatives. So they're asked to talk about a difficult class that they have, one that is easy, a famous singer or famous person. If you could go on to slide 2. Here we're going to be talking about comparatives and superlatives. Go on to the next one, please. And then they're asked to compare 2 things. So in this case, it was the White House versus their house. And they had to come up with a sentence understanding the different types of grammar approaches you can gain about talking about things in a comparative format or a superlative format. So this allows for very extensive collaboration. What you don't see here on these sticky notes, in order to make sure that everyone participates, in addition, we give everybody a number rather than having put their name on it. And that way we can identify whose material that belonged to. So that way we know that every student is participating. You go back to the main page, please. And then finally, you have a Flipgrid activity. This is a student who was working on a project where she had to go to a supermarket, a local supermarket near us, find a product that was from another country, in this case, a Spanish-speaking country, talk about that product, and then compare it to something that she is familiar with within our culture, and compare the two, because that's what they have to do for the AP exam. This is an AP level student, but I want you to listen to her just for a moment. She is not a native speaker. She is not a heritage speaker, but she is in a 5 AP.
Brad, I'm not sure.
You're not getting the sound?
Sound on this one. It doesn't seem to be.
Again, once you are able to upload.
Oh, wait, here we go.
Okay, there we go. Thank you.
Hoy yo voy a probar el chip de plátano que se llama el platanito en México, pero en otros países tienen otros nombres. Por ejemplo, en Perú se llama el chifle.
That's good, thank you.
En Cuba se llama el.
So as you can see, it's not a perfect scenario of the hybrid model, but it does have its advantages for us in world languages, health, and PE. It allows for a lot of collaboration on a group and individual level. And we're having such a good experience with this that when we are able to get back to our regular classroom instruction, we will be incorporating these things into our regular curriculum. Thank you very much. Next person up is Mr. Twizzler with Mathematics and Business.
Hi, everybody. So the 2 big challenges that we were working on in math were the idea of student engagement and assessment. I'm really lucky to be working with a fantastic group of people, both in math and business, that really took this opportunity of what could be the horrors of the pandemic in 2020 and really used it as a fantastic learning experience to really grow in their use of technology in the classroom. This first slide shows Desmos. Desmos is a mathematics platform that allows teachers to be able to give assignments to students. One of the big advantages of Desmos was it offered this dashboard that allowed the teacher to be able to interact with the students live in person, as well as the ones at home. And we really like that because it's the ability to have all the students be part of the lesson and have the students actively be doing the math instead of just listening to a lecture of the content. In this dashboard, it allows the teacher to be able to see where the students are at. So some students might be moving on faster than others, and it allows the teacher to differentiate what's going on. It also allows the activity to be happening synchronously or asynchronously. So the teacher could use this as a homework assignment. The teacher could use this live during class time. Both work as ways to be able to allow the students to be able to interact with the material. The picture on the left shows the dashboard where you can see the classroom. It has a really awesome feature where you can actually hit a button to make all of the students anonymous, and instead they all get mathematicians as pseudonyms. And so that allows the teacher to be able to display it to the smartboard in class should they want. I should also point out to Mr. Stiles that this program is absolutely free, which is a nice perk. On the right, we see the individual view. So the teacher has the ability to click on any student slide to be able to see their work. Sadly, this program does not support ink. So although the Chromebook has been used a lot in all the different classes that I supervise, this does not work as nicely for the ink input, but students do have access to a fantastic math editor, which simulates what they're going to see on the SLA. So it's a really great way for students to be able to work in the same format that they're going to use for that program. Teacher also does have the ability to take snapshots of this to be able to store it and either bring it to an IEP or a parent conference or create a portfolio for the students. So it's really nice. Could I please have the next slide? All right, another program that we've been using a lot is OneNote. OneNote really has two different styles that we've been using it in. The one more dominant style is that the teachers have been using it individually to be able to write on the board. We found that it has fewer issues with connectivity that Smart Notebook might have. So it's been gaining a lot of popularity there and allows a great way for teachers to be able to organize all of their notes. We also have a few teachers experimenting with the idea of using it as a classroom. So it actually is a freestanding LMS similar to what you might see in Google Classroom. So it's a really nice platform for there where the teacher can actually send materials out to the kids. They can use it to collect materials from the kids. They can write on students' work and students can write collaboratively on the same document. So it's a really interesting platform in that regard. Some teachers are using it for the day-to-day notes. Some teachers are using it for assessment. So it varies a little bit. It also does allow the ability to embed a PDF into it and save as a PDF. So if students wanted to be able to use it to be able to take their notes, similar to in English, they were using Kami. I'm sorry, that was world language, they were using Kami. Or in English, when they were using Google Docs. OneNote integrates with all that, and it has really nice inking capabilities for the students as well as the teachers. On the right, you see a picture of an assessment that a teacher used in the business department to be able to allow the students to be able to submit their work. And the teacher made up a master document that was a skeleton of the assessment, and then the students hand wrote all of their answers on it, submitted it all directly through OneNote. It had timing capabilities to be able to lock it at given times. It had the ability to be able to make it available at certain times, which is a really nice feature because early on that was a big problem of trying to figure out how do we make these things available at the right time and not too long. And so you can also see some of the teacher's notation back on that, back to the student. And now the student has an electronic copy of that assessment that they can look at whenever they want. So if this is a quiz environment, they can use it to study for the test, or if it's a test environment, they could use it a little bit later on to be able to study for the exam. Next slide, please. ClassKick. ClassKick is by far the most popular thing that we've discovered so far. I've had teachers using a lot of different things to be able to simulate the idea of assessments, but ClassKick really takes the cake. The real advantage of ClassKick is it naturally allows collaboration between the teacher and the student. So basically you set it up, it's almost as if they're slides, like in a PowerPoint, and then each slide has a question on it that prompts the student to be able to give an answer. Then the student has the option of either being able to type their answer, handwrite their answer, maybe with a stylus or maybe with their finger on the Chromebook, or take a video to be able to submit it, audio as well if you'd rather do that, or take a picture with their Chromebook. So the students that, particularly the seniors, that don't have inking capabilities on their Chromebook, they could write all their answers out by hand and then take a picture. It's stored directly on that slide, which makes it very easy for the students to find and very easy for the teachers to grade. The picture on the left, you can see that the teacher actually had a dialogue with the student to be able to create a chat window, to be able to write prompts to the student. The student then made changes directly on their picture. They just took their stylus, wrote it right over top of it, and then said, is that good? And then it had a dialogue with the teacher, give and take as to how to do the content. Over on the right, you also see the chat feature in a different way. This is actually if the student raises their hand, so they can request help directly through ClassKick. And they can say, I need help on this problem. You could do that while taking an assessment or maybe just an exit ticket to be able to give the students give and take. It also has the capability for students to act as that answer giver in that environment. So you can actually use it to create dialogue between students where they could help each other on the content just by raising their hand and then fielding those questions. It's almost like having a TA in the classroom. And then that picture on the bottom also shows this idea of give and take between the teacher and the student, really just to show that same idea. We actually purchased subscription to ClassKick, sorry, Mr. Stice, but that gives us site access to the entire school. And in the pro version, students actually can sign in with their Google credentials, and then they can go back and reference this whenever they want. So similar to OneNote, it's that ability to be able to learn from it. Instead of just doing the math for the sake of following the routine, they can actually learn through the material, have give and take with the teacher, look at that feedback, and then use that feedback to grow as mathematicians. This could be used in any platform. It's just at the moment, it's gained a lot of popularity in math. I'd like to introduce Mr. D'Alessio to talk a little bit about science.
Thank you, Mr. Twizzler. So these are, of course, pictures from prior years. students. But the real challenges we had in the science department this year, if you go to the next slide, were how we were going to conduct our labs. Obviously, we're an interactive department, and with inquiry-based learning through labs that we do in all of our classes, whether they're a core class or whether they are an elective. So this summer, actually starting in June, I had several meetings with the teachers, and throughout the summer they were great in having meetings with me in the evening to talk about ways in which we could supplement our labs this year. So we came up with 3 big ideas on how to do that. The first is something called Vernier Pivot, which really isn't a big lift for us, because you've probably heard from presentations from earlier years that we use a lot of Vernier technology in the class. Vernier Pivot is an interactive tool where the labs are being done on video, but the students can still change variables within those labs and measure the effects on things, and that allows it both in biology, chemistry, and physics, as well as our elective classes. So that was good, because although we can't share the equipment during lab now, that same type of equipment is used on these videos, and the teachers and students are really the ones who can do all the measurements and manipulate variables using Vernier Pivot. Gizmos is a little bit different. Gizmos is a simulation that allows our teachers to simulate different inquiry-based concepts in biology, chemistry, physics, engineering. All of our teachers have Gizmos and Pivot capability throughout the year. And the Gizmos, again, is a little bit less interactive, but more of a simulation. But it provides about 500 to 600 different simulations that we can use. We've had a little bit of professional development in the department through the company that we purchased the software from. And it's been very, very good as a supplement to many of the things we do in class, as well as a supplement to the Pivot. The other thing that we've used this year is something called a Rocket Book. So a Rocket Book allows us to have contactless uploading of documents to a predetermined drive that the teachers have through Google, and allows them to check student work. So we've really cut down on paper. We use absolutely no paper in the department this year. We use our Rocket Books. We're piloting them in chemistry, but within the first week, we got enough Rocket Books to use in physics, because they've been very, very helpful to use there. These Rocket Books allow us to do calculations, problems that we would have to check work for students on, and allows them to just upload it through their phone within one snapshot out of a picture. And they've been really, really helpful. And to be honest, it's been something that we're probably going to go to for the future, pandemic minus, hopefully, and just not use paper anymore, because we can really really use these Rocket Books to get student work to us and grade it quickly. Other software that we're using that you may have heard of in the past or even tonight is Kami. Of course, Kami allows us to upload PDFs and mark them up and grade them. So we use those in combination with the Rocketbook files that come through from the students. We still use WebAssign, which is our online homework delivery platform. We've been using WebAssign for almost 2 decades at Watchung Hills. And it's very helpful in having students practice problems and allow them to practice in an environment that allows for points to be gained or not points to be lost, with multiple submits. As Mr. Twizzler had mentioned, some of my teachers are using ClassKick this year. Some teachers are using Nearpod. We are still using graphical analysis in our Vernier probes to take down measurements. So teachers are doing demos and using their computers and cameras in the classroom to have students see those different demos and take data down from that. So although we can't share that Vernier equipment with our students and have our students put their hands on them, the teachers are using them for demos. And Loom videos that teachers are doing to supplement their lessons. They're creating videos for students on topics and having students learn them on their own or supplement their learning on different things that they had seen this year. So there's a little bit of a hodgepodge of different things going on, but the big three things are Vernier, Gizmos, and the Rocketbooks. If you turn to the next slide, there are links to show you a couple examples of things. So if you click the pivot link, Dr. Jewett, the 1-minute pivot interactive video will come up. So this is just a video from Vernier Technology, which we purchased Pivot from. You can see they're moving around tools or that you would use in the lab, whether it's a ruler, whether it's a spectrophotometer, whether it's going to be a fan cart in physics. Students take the data down and manipulate it either through graphical analysis that they can find lines of best fit. They can use linear models. They can do quadratic models for data. So all these things the students can do. There's open-ended questions. We can edit all these labs. It can be done on handheld devices, but mostly our students are doing these through their Chromebooks. If you go back to the slide before, Gizmos, again, that's a little bit of a simulation. You just want to if you click the video in the bottom right corner there, and just go to the 3rd minute, if you can forward it to the 3rd minute, you'll see a little bit of what Gizmos can do with teachers, for teachers.
How to use these tools. Gizmos have made it a whole lot easier to plan out a lesson and get to a certain standard. We say here that it is slow, and right around here, it got real fast. Why do you think that's happening?
Explore Learning's Professional Development Department partners with districts to identify their needs and then create a program to move them toward their goals.
Explore Learning has been a thought partner as we've moved to more inquiry-based, student-centered classroom strategies.
The services we've received from Explore Learning have just been outstanding. It's been very seamless.
When students are more engaged in science or math, and when students are more engaged using the Gizmos product, their scores are higher. So although we can't say it's causation, we do know that there is a correlation.
Now we see children really looking at the content at a much deeper level, which is
So you can close that video. And then the other example we have is our Rocketbook example. So that's a picture of a student's work. And if you click the little Rocketbook app video in the top left corner, it'll show you exactly how the Rocketbook works. So all the scans that the students take go to designated drives. The notebook is reusable in that the ink that's on the notebook can be wiped off with a cloth. That's part of the Rocketbook that's given. And the Rocketbook can be used for any class in the school as long as the drive is designated. So it's not just science. They can use it in any of their classes. And I know that some students use the Rocketbook to take notes in other classes and then upload those notes to a drive that they've predetermined. So those are the 3 big hybrid model highlights that we're doing in the science department this year: Pivot, Gizmos, and the Rocketbooks. And now I'd like to introduce Mr. Bertelli, Supervisor of Arts.
Thank you, Mr. D'Alessio. I trust we are now at cruising altitude. So in the arts, we had a big challenge, and it was very daunting to me and the staff at first. But, in the end, we were provided with guidance by the New Jersey state standards that were approved in 2020. And those standards created a simple framework for all 5 of the disciplines: dance, music, theater, visual arts, and media arts. And it states that the students are to go through 4 steps: creating, performing, responding, and connecting. So once we took a deep breath and reflected on what these standards, said to us, we thought that there would be no better way than to just get the art materials in the students' hands and have them create art, because what a better time for arts to be for our students to help them with their social emotional growth. And it was with very much support from the administration, Mr. Libera, Ms. Phelan, the Board of Ed, Mr. Stives, Ms. Jewett, because everything that we put together, if it was to enrich the students' experience at home, there was no questions asked. So you can go to the next slide, Dr. Jewett. I chose this next slide because it is a quick snapshot of what makes me very proud of what the teachers have done this year. All the teachers have worked very hard putting together packages of clay, putting together bags of paint and paintbrushes and pencils and rulers. And on the right-hand slide, those are boxes of food for the students to pick up: eggs, flour, milk, and what have you, so they could cook at home. And I think what a service our district has done for our students, because we all know that the arts, it is proven that it relieves stress, anxiety, and it builds confidence, self-knowledge. It helps students explore emotions and ideas. And it's just from spending so much time on the computer to actually, push the laptop aside, grab a chunk of clay, get your paint out, use your camera, start cooking in your kitchen. I just think it's done wonders for our kids. And the slide on the left, you can see from Ms. Truskowski, the smiles on those kids' faces. That's what I see constantly in my observations, are the kids at home making art, getting their hands dirty, and just, expressing themselves and just relieving a little bit of stress. And I think the Board of Ed and the administration should pat themselves on the back, because I think it's done wonders for the kids. So the other document we've leaned on was the Art Ed September Ready document that provided guidance for how we were going to move forward with the safety precautions with COVID. There is a lot to take in, with aerosol studies in the band and choir, with just sharing materials in the ceramics room and what have you. I sat through a lot of webinars, but the resources around the state were abundant and extremely helpful. So I chose these two videos real quick. You can play the first one, Dr. Jewett. This is one of our freshmen, and he is playing a electric guitar and amp that we provided him, and he picked it up at school, and he's playing along on a program called Musician, which he's learning guitar chords. So this is just one resource out of many that the students were made available for, that I think can just take them out of the element of virtual learning. And, if this was around when Mr. Stives was in school, look out world, we would have had a whole new level of rock band taking place. Okay, you can stop that. It's just a little example. The next one, I know teachers have talked about Flipgrid, but you can play this, Dr. Jewett. This is one of my students. There was just a project of to make a set using the facial features, the eyes, nose, and mouth. You can turn the volume down, Ms. Jewett, if you can. So this is how we do critiques in class. This is an all virtual student, and all of our teachers are constantly picking up projects in the atrium, putting out materials in the atrium. The students come for glaze. They take the glaze home. They bring the pot back. We put it in the kiln. It's a lot of work behind the scenes, but when the kids come and drop off their projects, they are, elated and just excited to be, in the art studio. So this is one example of the technology we've used in the studio art classes, on how students share their work, talk about their work, and then the students go back and talk about their classmates' work. So just one way to get the students to learn how to talk about their art and their artwork, which is an extremely important skill. also a couple other technology programs we bought was the whole music first classroom for every one of our music students. That is kind of like Google Classroom for music. It makes the teachers easily share, lessons for clarinet and scales to practice, and have the students record videos and sight read and craft music in sound trap within Mr. Wyatt's class. So, our teachers deserve a huge round of applause. They're going above and beyond, preparing all of these little packages and sending them back and forth. And once again, our students are not only benefiting from it. So thank you very much. Thank you for the support. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Ms. Dermer.
Thank you, Mr. Bertelli. Good evening, everybody. I'm just going to speak briefly about some of the updates from the Special Services Department, so we can move on to the next slide. Like others have said, those pictures that were shown are from previous years, which we're hoping to get back to one day. Some of our highlights from this year include that we have been able to welcome back over 25 of our special education students to in-person learning on a daily basis, 5 days a week. This has provided consistency of scheduling, more exposure to teachers and peers, and the ability to have related services delivered in person for those that have chosen that. We also have offered afternoon individual supplemental support for over 45 classified students at this time, and the number keeps growing. During the afternoon hours between 1:30 and 3, students can be assigned to an instructional assistant to offer support. Some of the support that they've been giving have been organization of assignments, check-ins on their grades, preparing for assessments, emotional support, chunking and breaking down material, and skill review. The number's growing, and it is a collaboration between parents, students, teachers, and the child study team on who's being recommended for those supports. Also, the child study team is continually monitoring student progress. They do this on almost a daily basis. They're trying to be very creative in meeting the needs of our students and working with their parents. They've recommended the students other students for 5-day to return to 5-day a week in-person instruction when it is needed, and other supports are not being proven as being successful. And lastly, the ADL and SLE classes used in our postgrad program have been utilizing reverse teaching strategies to support some of our transition skills, since it's been so difficult to get out to the community. As Mr. Bertelli said, one of our ADL classes that deals with cooking has been sending home packages of foods that students that are virtual can be cooking with their peers in the classroom. Teachers have been videotaping themselves out in the community since we're not able to do our CBI trips, and then they're reviewing it with the students in class. Our SLE classes have found jobs around the school to support their transition skills. They're currently working on some of the soft skills needed at a job site. And the big project that we're hoping to be working on in the very near future is making a virtual transition to high school video for our rising 9th graders to send to our sending district. This will work on public speaking and video production and interviewing skills for our students. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much to the entire leadership team. I'll open it up to the board members now if you have any questions or comments.
That was a lot. And okay, and it was indicated a couple times that it was this PowerPoint is available. Is it going to be, is in our board? Where will it be?
I will post it actually on the website tomorrow. Okay. So, and it'll be in the board minutes as well. I'll put it in the board folder, but I will absolutely post it on the website for anyone who wants to view it, and I'll include it in the board folder.
I have one question.
Hold on one second, Dr. Chan. There's a couple other hands that are raised.
Okay.
So, Rita, I'm not sure if you can see the hands raised, or you just want me to call on folks. You're muted.
Not all of us have a hand raise function.
Okay, Jordana and Susan, I can see. Sorry.
And if you raise them in your screen too, that's fine. Perfect. Okay,
Go
so
ahead, Jordana.
Yeah, I mean, more of a comment. I'm just wowed. Thank you for this amazing presentation. And I'm sure on behalf of the entire board, just really want to thank our teachers for finding these incredible resources, going above and beyond, finding these amazing. This is not easy to teach in this environment. And I just want to let you guys know that we completely understand and appreciate. And I just feel like our teachers, you guys have really found a way to make lemonade out of lemons, and just appreciating. I mean, this was a lot. I'm still processing, but it's really impressive. And I just wanted to, me personally, thank all the teachers for, just continuously looking for these creative solutions to engage. I have a million questions, but I don't even think I can intelligently ask anything right now.
well, and Mr. Bond, if you do want to, put them in an email, I can certainly share them with the folks who the questions are directed to, and certainly get feedback.
That's probably a better route. Thank you.
Susan.
Yeah, I actually, she took the words right out of my mouth. I'm blown away. This was actually such a treat to hear of all of these innovations. I had no idea all of this was going on. So I was so delighted to see it. And I'm like, just so impressed. And it's really such a benefit to our students. And so I hate to add this one question that will sound negative, but I thought one statistic really stood out, that we have no Black or African American students taking AP tests.
No, they were on there. There were stars in some of those boxes.
I saw that.
Because they're less than 20 for the subgroups when it's broken down. So that's why we don't report it. There were stars in some of those boxes. Now, certainly the numbers are not as high as our other groups. Number one, because our African-American population in the high school is obviously a smaller percentage. However, we are looking to increase participation of all subgroups. So that's something that I know Mr. Sabino and the guidance department is working on in terms of counseling students to take those courses.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Naresh had a question. Next, I guess.
So I agree with the comments made earlier about the presentation, the amazing presentation. I learned a lot today, first time. My question to you is that the student performance data. So you compare the data with the New Jersey state as a whole, but do we have some top 5-10% schools? We need to compare with them. So I'm wondering whether our school also compares, okay, these are the top schools. And in our town, for example, when people are trying to move in, they see the school system, which school system is better here, Bridgewater, or here, So I'm just wondering that whether we also have some sort of a system where we compare our school with some of the best schools, considered best school in the state.
So Dr. Chan, that's a great question and point you bring up. We do have a group of comparable districts that we compare our scores to. The data was so delayed this year in terms of getting out that if you noticed on some of the histograms as well, we were even missing some of the bars because some of that data has not been released yet just because everything was so delayed. But yes, we absolutely will be, because one of the things too that we want to take a look at, our AP performance dropped slightly. And so we're certainly interested to see if the same is true for other schools, because, we really can't compare any of last year's assessment results to our prior year assessment results because the assessments were different. And obviously the school year was different. So that's why it is important for us to take a look at how the other schools did to see if they had similar changes in performance or if it was something unique to us that we need to look deeper at. So that's an excellent point. We just don't have the data yet.
I see. So I have one follow-up question. Our labs, our education system, do we have uniform system in the state? Or it is up to the individual school to decide what kind of lab you are offering, what kind of experiments you are offering. So, just for my information, do we follow some sort of a standard system? Do we have standard books, approved by the state, or we have our own system?
So I'll let Mr. DeLessio speak specifically to the labs. Resources are not the state. The only thing that the state mandates are the standards we have to follow. They do not mandate materials. They do not mandate classroom activities, but we have to make sure that we're aligned with the standards. And I'll let Mr. DeLessio speak a little bit more to the structure of labs.
So all the AP labs are designated in the AP curriculum. So if you're teaching AP chemistry, AP bio, AP environmental science, or physics, there are either recommended labs or standard labs that the students do. So those are set in stone. They're part of the curriculum. In terms of our core classes, biology, chemistry, and physics, though all those labs do relate to state standards, to New Jersey state learning standards, and obviously we don't have a lab book in the state of New Jersey, say for biology, chemistry, or physics, but many of the labs we are doing are done in other schools, simulations that we do. So whether you're doing a lab on DNA analysis at Watch on Hills, you may be doing something similar to that at Bridgewater. So there's no standard lab book, say, for the state of New Jersey for any of the core courses. For our PLTW engineering courses, that is a set curriculum. All the so-called labs and programs and projects they do there have to be followed by the PLTW curriculum. So there is no set lab in New Jersey other than your labs should relate to your state standards and what you're doing in the classroom.
Okay, good. Could I ask one more simple question?
Sure, go ahead.
So my question was, in your spreadsheet, you classified students as American, Asian, and all that. Is that politically correct? I mean, every student is American, right? Comes to the school, right? I mean,
those subgroups come directly from the College Board. So that came directly from the College Board who runs the AP testing. That's how they categorize the subgroups. So we took that from them.
Well, I suspect that means that when they sign up for the AP, they'd have to designate if they want to. They're not required to designate. And if they want to designate, those are their choices, and it's set up by the board, the College Board. Okay.
Mr. Morrison had his hand up before, in case you didn't see it, Ms. Barone.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I also see Peter. So who wants to go first?
Go ahead, Bob.
So first of all, I want to thank the Ed Committee and the board for allowing the change up in this type of presentation. Originally, we were supposed to be going through a lot of the other data, which obviously we don't have, but I think the opportunity for all of us to hear the innovative work that individual departments are doing to address, the current environment, I think was, I know you all agree, was a valuable use of our time. I do have one question, then another comment. And I'm not sure who the person is to answer this. And if we can't answer it tonight, that's fine. You can get back to me on it. Obviously, I saw that there was a 3-year downward trend as it related to SATs. And I was just curious, within the SAT, what was driving that? So what of the subcomponents of the overall SAT was actually the bringing things down, or was it just across everything, all 3 areas of the SAT?
I have to take a look back at the data. I'm not sure, Mr. DeLessio, if you can address that, or Mrs. Fallon, or if you want to take a look at it tomorrow.
So when we get an SAT score from the College Board, we're just getting a math score and a verbal score. We don't know. The student definitely gets something that says, okay, your pathways to algebra aren't so good, or your usage or mechanics is not so good, or primary purpose questions. We don't get a drill down of the data from each student. We just get a score. So, it's hard for us to kind of recognize, whether, where a student's or a group of students are struggling, each year. So we don't get that. We just get a score, which is unfortunate, but that's what it is.
I'll have to take.
So did I misread the slide? Because I did not see the breakdown of English and math. I just saw a total composite score. So if I missed that, I apologize.
Let me go back to it.
I don't think that was given. It was just the
aggregate
score was given, not a breakdown. But it sounds like we do get a breakdown, but that's not the way it was in the slide.
All right, let me find this back here.
Yeah. So I was just curious, is it the math? Is it the language arts? Is it both? The combination, and again, like I said, we don't have to address this now. Someone can follow up with me afterwards.
Mr. Savino, I believe we have the math and the verbal breakdown on the school profile.
Yeah, well, I can follow up with that information on the board with the breakdown. Absolutely. I can share that with you guys.
Yeah, the school profile is posted
So just
on
real quick.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. The school profile is also posted on the website. The school profile is posted currently for 2021. So if you're looking for some additional data, it may be there. Otherwise, I can circle back with Mike D'Alessio on any other data points.
Okay, Bob, you said you had a
And then just real quickly, just two quick ones. First of all, I think one of the things we also noticed in the AP testing was the continued improvement in history, which is certainly, if the board or the members that were here at the time, where we actually realigned the history sequencing because our history AP scores were not in alignment of when we were teaching and when the tests were being taken. And so I think the increase that we're seeing there is a direct result of the changes that were made to the sequencing of history. So it came into alignment. So the theory behind making the change is proving itself out, in the way our students are performing on the history AP tests. And then the third thing I'd like to, just compliment all of the supervisors and all the teachers for is the extra effort in making sure that materials and supplies are are getting out to our students. But even beyond that, I think the idea of sending out the packages of being able to cook at home, whether it was for our special services students or for our culinary arts students, so that they can actually do the work at home, I thought was fantastic. And, the idea of sending out, clay and three-dimensional art products to students who then create the art, and then it comes back, and then faculty, staff, students are in the school to then fire it up so that you have a completed project afterwards. That's phenomenal. I mean, that's phenomenal commitment to our students. And I just used that example, but I know every department has similar examples to that. So kudos to everyone for the great work. I'm very impressive.
Okay, Peter.
Just very quickly, kudos and thanks to each and every one of you. This reflects not only the tremendous amount of effort that all of you have put into making this hybrid learning functional for our students, but also a tremendous amount of effort to educate us, your board members, about what you've done, and I can't tell you how much we appreciate it.
Greg has his hand up. Thank you, Peter.
I likewise would like to thank the administrative staff for their presentations. It's been very helpful for me personally as a board member to get a sense of what's going on. To a point that Bob made, while we do see changes from year to year in certain metrics like SAT scores, I would point out that we're only seeing raw numbers, and if you're going to be really precise about it, knowing what standard deviations are like and how one year compares to the other, there may actually be no statistically significant differences between the different scores given how close they are. And so I would suggest in future presentations, if we can have that more statistical analysis of data comparing year to year so that we can really have a better sense of whether it's a meaningful change or not.
Thank you for that. And the board feedback on this is one of the most important parts, because this presentation is for all of you, so that you can get a good understanding of the outcome of a lot of the work that you put in and the decisions you make and the programs you support. So I appreciate the feedback for how we can improve this for your education in the future, as well as for the public, for our community. So thank you. That's really, really helpful.
And I guess the only thing I wanted to say was like the lemonade out of this, I think, is the use of the technology. A number of you indicated that on a going forward basis, using a lot of these types of applications or the webinar idea for the counseling to get more people involved in like the school counseling events that we have. But using this and going forward with it, I think is like one of the best things that, can come out of something like this. So any other questions or comments? Yay. Agreed, Peter.
Thank you for the feedback and comments, really, to the board members that shared. And thank you to the administrative team and those of you that weren't directly involved in the presentation but joined us. You are all free to go now. So you can continue watching on YouTube if you would like to watch the rest of the meeting, but you are welcome to sign off of Zoom. So thank you so much. Great job, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Board members, you cannot leave. Just to clarify, in case any of you had any ideas. I saw Peter ready to click his button.
So it is 9:20. I don't know if anybody needs a break to go to the ladies' room or anything. Jordan is saying, okay, so why don't we take 3 minutes and then we're going to do our committee reports. Stand up, shake it.
Great.
Shake your legs out. Okay. We're now back. I guess everybody just saw a little break on the streaming. Sorry, everybody, but. All right, we needed to stretch. So we have committee reports. So Education Committee, Mr. Morrison.
So I'm gonna use Barry's 3 favorite words of mine, and those are "I'll be brief." everyone has received a committee report from the education committee in their documents or in their drives. And some just brief highlights. There was an October survey that was done of parents, students, and teachers to really compare instruction from the spring to now, and also getting some feedback on likes, dislikes in comparison to the end of last year versus what we're doing now. Dr. Jewett's going to share some details about that at the conclusion of my presentation. We also talked about educational technology and looking at some of the different platforms that they're using. Obviously, you heard a lot about the platforms that they're using tonight, but they are looking at some new initiatives, including using Office 365 and some additional reports from Google to check for work authenticity. And they're implementing some faculty portals for professional development and other resources. Mr. Melissa also discussed the potential need for some of the one-to-one devices to be upgraded in the near future. Threw that one in there for you, Greg. Additionally, we talked about the Ed Reports and Math Professional Development. Ed Reports is doing a review of basically the alignment of our math curriculum with the standards. And so they're working on looking at resource exploration, the various materials and why materials matter in this process, and then critiquing, of course, materials in alignment to the standards and best practices. So this will be a very important component of the review that's going on with the math instruction program at the school. And fun fact, only 7% of New Jersey districts use materials that are actually aligned to the standards and are standardized tests. Under diversity, equity, and inclusion, Dr. Jewett updated the committee on the RFP submissions. On our next board meeting, there will be an action item to approve an RFP for the professional development providers in the area of diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm going to kick the family and consumer science comments over to the personnel committee, who will be addressing that. And the one thing I just want to talk about briefly is a new program that the district is moving to called Gaggle. We currently have a program that's called Go Guardian, which is a tool to help ensure school and student safety online. And they're looking to enhance the practices by adding this new program called Gaggle, which will provide similar monitoring that we have with Go Guardian, but rather than relying just on AI, they will be utilizing real people to flag communications that are occurring on any of our systems and contact our school personnel depending on the level of concern. The plan is to roll out this new system around December 1st, and there will be communication being sent out to staff, parents, and students regarding the use of this new tool. The committee suggested making sure that the messaging on this is very clear as we are looking, as these are tools that are used to monitor activities with all the various software and communication tools that students are learning. So it's important that they're aware of what it is that we're using and how it is that we're using it. We also talked briefly about having future discussion about how to address teaching critical thinking and allowing our students to be able to view items from differing perspectives, which we'll certainly talk about in the future. And that concludes my report. I welcome any additional comments from any of the committee members.
Mr. Morrison, if you want to highlight just a few of the items from the survey that we had sent out. And
yes,
so,
please.
We talked, we asked about the aspect of the hybrid model that is most enjoyed, and we surveyed faculty, students, and parents. And the faculty said, the majority of the faculty said seeing students in person. And for the students, it was between the in-person instruction and the amount of classes in a day. They like having fewer classes that they have to go to in a day. And for the parents, it was the in-person instruction by far. In terms of the aspect that is least enjoyed, for the staff, they commented that just the difficulty of establishing rapport with their students because they don't get to see them every single day. And it was actually, and then for the students, it was the same. It was the lack of, actually, it was the lack of interaction with their classmates and with their teachers, and the parents, the same thing. And then in terms of the thoughts on the snack, the students overwhelmingly, and the parents had thought it was, important to have that break in the day. And then a couple of the pieces of feedback that, were, I think, reassuring. The stress level in the hybrid model compared to last year. So for that, for the staff, I mean, that, the majority of them feel that it's higher, and that's understandable. So certainly, they dealt with a lot of challenges at the beginning of the year. But for the students, some of them were kind of evenly split between higher, about the same, and lower. But what was reassuring, so I'll get to this part now, is in terms of the stress level in the hybrid model. For the majority, for the faculty, the students and the parents, they all responded. The overwhelming majority was in the middle. We asked them, the options were fine, a little stressed, overwhelmed, and most were a little stressed, which I feel like that's kind of a normal response to school, is the majority of students are a little stressed. And then in terms of comparison of instruction now to the spring, 72% of the faculty said better, 65% of the students said better, and 71% of the parents said better. So that's certainly reassuring, and that we're going in the direction we want to go. And also in terms of the workload, the 81% of the students and 88% of the parents felt that their students were able to keep up, as opposed to not able to keep up. So, that's certainly good feedback for us to get. In terms of the stress level in the hybrid model, specifically, for the staff, I think if we were to survey them again, hopefully, that would go down a little bit. But we're focused on providing them as much support as we can, because this is certainly a heavy lift, as we've commented throughout the meeting for them, and they're doing a phenomenal job with it. But it really is akin to, for many of them, to being a first-year teacher all over again, where you're planning everything for the first time, because it's very different from how you've taught in the past. And they really are doing an outstanding job with it. So just some highlights on that survey.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions on education? All right, let's go into personnel. Susan?
Okay, so the Personnel Committee met on November 9th, and we talked about the items on tonight's agenda. There were C items on tonight's agenda. The preview items were discussed in the executive session, and on the agenda for approval tonight, you'll notice that we have the new salaries for the principals and supervisors. And that's because we did finalize the contract and the salary guides for the PSA. So those are on tonight for approval. We've hired new coaches for girls basketball and indoor track, and they're on tonight's agenda for approval. Regarding the family consumer science vacancy, I don't know how much we want to talk about this, but there is a vacancy due to a retirement, and we have not received a lot of feedback from the posting of that position. And so we've been talking about various options for either having other teachers cover it, or possibly making some changes in the program. And we will be having further discussions, and we're still hoping that some interest will become available on the posting for that position. Anybody else? Freddie, Naresh, Beth want to contribute?
Okay.
No.
Great.
All righty, any questions on that from anybody? All right, operations.
Okay, I will start by reminding everybody that we as a board decided some time ago to participate in the state's ESIP, Energy Savings Improvement Plan, which is basically pursuant to a state law that was set up that allows us to finance improvements that'll result in energy savings through a program where we don't have to come up with the money up front, but we engage an energy service company that's been licensed by the state and the Board of Public Utilities to come do a deep dive audit on possible energy savings. Then they will come back to us with specific recommendations, and we as a board would decide which projects, if any, to undertake. And the idea is it would all be financed out of the savings from our future energy bills under that. So we're now at the point where we had put out a request for proposals. Tim had put out a request for proposals for an ESCO, one of these energy savings companies that'll come in and do the deep dive audit and then come to us with a proposal for various possible energy savings programs over the next several years to be financed in this way. And the purpose of our operations committee meeting on November 4th was to talk about how we would take the two respondents to the RFP. One is Honeywell and the other is Willdan, and then come up with recommendations for the board as to which way to go. We decided, after getting some input, not only from Tim Sties, but also from both the engineer and the architect at Spiesel, that we were doing it by a subcommittee of the operations committee. So tomorrow there's going to be an hours-long meeting with Naresh, Barry, me, Tim, Sties, and Steve from our architect, and Justin, the engineer from our architect, in which we will go over the rubrics for going through these two different proposals we've received from two possible ESCOs, and then we'll actually interview each of them and then spend probably another 45 minutes going over that so that we can come back to you at the November 24th meeting with a recommendation as to which of the two we should hire.
Right, and that's number 8 on the future action items, if everybody.
Thank you, Rita.
No problem. Anything
Yeah,
else in operations that we want to go over?
Just want to add one thing, just so the board is aware. We did purchase 5 of the bipolar ionization units for Univents. Our guys, with some assistance from the engineer, hooked them up. They were very easy to hook up, which is encouraging. They've been there for about 3 or 4 days now. We've talked to the staff. They are so far the feedback's been all positive. So we put out for quotes to get up to the bid threshold, meaning we'll go right to the edge of the quote thresholds, and so we can save a few dollars on the project. So we're looking to get 75 of these things all told, and our guys can put them in. So they're pretty quick, these, to get them in. So they're only only $550 a piece, and our guys are doing the work. So that's not bad. So if we put 75 in ourselves, we're only going to need 25 more of the Univents and then the bigger units too. But again, it looks like the cost of that project is going to be significantly less than what we originally thought, which is a good thing.
And I like
really good
feedback. When you're saying you're getting good feedback, what do you mean by that? In terms
So what we wanted to know from the teachers specifically was, do you hear any noises? Is there a specific smell that's coming out? Is there anything that's irritating you? That's the first round of question is there anything that's bothering you? And the answer has been unequivocally no. And we've been in there to ourselves, and you can't hear anything. You really don't notice it. There is it's almost like, I don't know how to describe it. Like our guys, they said it smells like a cleaner smell, like you would smell in a hospital.
And Tim, I would just like to tell the rest of the board that when Tim went ahead and purchased the 5 units, that was Dr. Chan's suggestion as the way to proceed at one of our earlier operations committee meetings. And as Tim's pointed out, that's going to have us able now, as a result of doing that, to significantly lower the cost of doing those 5 plus about another 75 of our 110 Univents that way. So it's a good result for all of us. So thank you, Dr. Chan.
Thank you. Agreed. Okay, any questions on operations? All righty, so we're now going to go into the first.
Excuse me, I just wanted to add something here.
Sure.
The proposal from Honeywell also include installing the polarizer as well as the UV unit with the HVAC, So you have to make sure that we have no duplication. If they are going to do it in their bid, I see the proposal, it is included in there, then you have to consider whether you need to have a separate bid.
Right, yeah, I mean, that's a good point. What Naresh is talking about is in the ESIP proposal, one of the proposals came back and they did have that included. The only thing is the time frame would be a little longer. That's something we have to consider, but that's something, once we select an ESCO, that's something we should take a look at for sure.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to go into the first opportunity for public comment. The first public comment period is limited to agenda items for this meeting only. The second public comment period is open to any topic. All comments are limited to 5 minutes. We're doing the thing where you have to link in through a Zoom link if you want to enter the meeting and indicate a comment. So this now will be your time to hit that link. Come in, we'll admit you to the meeting, you state your name, and you can give where you're from and give us your comment. So we'll give it a few minutes.
Yeah, about 30 seconds or a minute, just because there's a little bit of a delay.
Right. Can we see actually how many people are watching us on YouTube? Or I don't even know if there's anybody out there.
Says about 18.
Yeah, Freddie, did you say there's about 18?
Yeah, but I'm one of them as well, so I don't know how many other board members.
17.
Yeah.
There might be others that are watching via the playback, because we usually have a bunch. Once they're not counted on that live count once they pause us, and they might have taken a bathroom break and paused us and come back. So
right, but then they don't hear me saying it's opportunity for public comment.
There's 89 playbacks and 1 like.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Maluso. Oh, we got a like again. There we go.
That was Freddie.
1 week, we're gonna get 2 likes. We're gonna get more.
Okay. Anybody coming in?
Nope, nobody is requesting to come in.
Okay. All right, I'm going to close the first opportunity for public comment. If you want to come in at the end of the meeting, we'll have a second opportunity. So now on the board discussion is for future action items only. So before we do that, Mr. Size, I just thought maybe you could explain some of the Ds. In particular, I was thinking maybe 5 and 6, because there's sort of this, just so everybody understands what those are, those big numbers that are in those.
Yeah, so 5 and 6 are requirements from the state in terms of maintenance costs, and 6 is for capital reserve. And what I'll give you, you'll get reports with 5. If I have them done, but what it is there's a minimum amount of maintenance that is required for schools to include in their budget. We exceed that by quite a bit. Their minimal number, which is a calculation, it's a state calculation on a form called M1. It's always so small, and I don't know how anybody could maintain. I mean, for example, our minimum amount for our size building is $114,000. I mean, if we spent $114,000 to maintain this building, it would be, there's no way we could do that.
Tim, I think that's what they were doing in the early 2000s before I was on the board, when we had those dingy floors and hallways throughout the building.
Yeah, but you can't, not what I don't know. I don't know if you could ever do that. But anyway, so 5 is, there's a calculation that shows that we meet the minimum. And also on the bottom of that same form, what it shows is it calculates the maximum amount of maintenance reserve that we can have That's one of those reserve accounts that we deposit monies in at the end of the year that we use for a rainy day. And the calculation, we're generally under that by quite a bit. I could tell you that that amounts a little north of $2 million, and our current maintenance reserve is less than $1 million. It's like $900,000. So we're okay there. And number 6 is we have a long-range facility plan. And in that plan is every single project that Spiesel put together for us to do on a long-range basis. Some of them we've already done, tennis courts, the breezeway fence, the media center, which is almost done. So those type of projects are in there. And out of that, if you take all those projects, what you're supposed to calculate is, if you subtract out the state aid, you're left with the local share of those projects. You're allowed to have a capital reserve account up to that amount. For us, it's $47 million. We will never deposit $47 million in it. I would love to have $47 million in a capital reserve. It will never happen. There's no way we can put that much money in a capital reserve. We're obviously very shy of that, but the state needs that to make sure that we're not putting too much money into capital reserve, which clearly we are not.
Tim,
So that's
can I
what that's what 5 and 6 are.
Tim, can I ask a question about that? How does that impact how much of our capital reserve we would have to give back to taxpayer relief each year if we don't use it up? If we can go that high in putting things into capital reserve?
Well, like if you're referring to when Governor Christie took office, yeah. So they didn't really look at that. They just looked at the amount of reserves you had in your account. They didn't really care what your outstanding projects were in your long range plan. They just saw, okay, they have this pot of money here, and we can use that to offset our state aid, is what they did. They weren't very scientific about it. They just took it.
But I'm asking a different question. In more recent years, not since Christie, but I thought there were limits on our capital reserve that were much lower than this. And that if we tried to put more in, we would have to end up giving it back as taxpayer relief.
For capital reserve, before we went to the long range facility plan, our numbers were dwindling.
Yeah.
And that's why it was so important to get an architect to upgrade that plan, because we couldn't, exactly what you said, what would have happened is that we couldn't have put the monies into capital reserve, thereby it would have had to go back to the taxpayers, or so we couldn't have used it for capital projects, which the board knows we've done in the last couple of years. We've done quite a few. So yeah, that is true. So updating that long range plan was a critical thing for us. So it's very important.
Thank you.
It's already has dividends, which are phenomenal. And some of that stuff in the ESIP project is in that long range plan. A lot of the projects, matter of fact.
So they do go together. Okay, that's good.
Was there any other ones, Rita?
I'm not sure if you wanted to say anything about 7, or if anybody has any other questions. Just some of these are a little dense, so I didn't know if there's something, it was just easier.
Well, the only thing I'll point out is, the 8 is it's like a resolution to appoint one of these 2 ESCO companies that Peter talked about before. Number 9, a couple of those expenses are great examples of things that we can save money on with the ESIP. Like the boiler repairs and Liberty Mechanical, the actuators that we replace, those type of things. That's what the ESIP addresses. You save money on your energy, but you also save money by not constantly have to repair these older units that are in the building. So just to give you an example of, this is just 1 month, but we typically are spending money on fluorescent light bulbs, boiler repairs, the chiller repairs, all those type of things that are in this ESIP, and which you'll see every agenda, HVAC stuff that we could get and save a few dollars on down the road by buying better, newer, more efficient items.
Okay. Any questions? Now, does anybody have any questions on any of the items now that Mr. Size has given us a little primer on some of them? Okay, that was just D's. Obviously, if you have questions on any of the other future action items, anybody? But D's were where the information. Okay, I don't see anything. So we can move on to action items.
Madam President, I'd like to move resolutions A1 through A3.
Can I have a second?
Bob, you're mistimed.
Second.
Bob, whenever you unmute yourself, you're mistimed and we're missing what you're saying.
All right, so that was Janine. Roll call, please.
Dr. Chand?
Yes.
Mr. Fallon?
Yes.
Mr. Hayek? Freddie?
Unmute yourself, Freddie.
All right. A1, A3, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
No on A1 and yes on A3.
What was it? No on A1? I'm sorry.
Yeah, and then yes on A2 and 3.
Got it. Okay. Mr. Hunsinger?
Yes.
Mr. Morrison?
Yes.
Ms. Potter?
Yes.
Ms. Zober?
Yes.
Dr. Shabilsky?
Yeah.
Ms. Raban?
Yes.
And Ms. Barone?
Yes.
Okay, motion's carry.
Tim, I don't think everybody was at that community forum. So is it appropriate for everybody to approve the minutes of it?
Yes, it is. You don't have to be
Okay.
there. You just have to read the minutes and say whether or not you want to approve them.
A lot of people
Okay.
will,
You can.
but you don't have to. Yeah.
Right,
Thank
you don't
you.
have to. Yes.
Madam President, I'd like to move resolutions A4 through A7.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Roll call, please, Mr. Stice.
Dr. Chand?
Yes.
Mr. Fallon?
Yes.
Mr. Hayek?
Yes.
Mr. Hunsinger?
Yes.
Mr. Morrison?
Yes.
Mrs. Ober?
Yes.
Dr. Shabilsky?
Yeah.
Ms. Raban?
Yes.
And Ms. Barone?
Yes.
Motion's carry.
Madam President, I'd like to move resolutions C1 through C12.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Mr. Stice, roll call, please.
Dr. Chand?
Yes.
Mr. Fallon?
Yes.
Mr. Hayek?
Yes.
Mr. Hunsinger?
Yes.
Mr. Morrison?
Yes.
Ms. Ober?
Yes.
Ms. Potter?
Yes.
Dr. Shabilsky?
Yes.
Ms. Raban?
Yes.
And Ms. Barone?
Yes.
Okay, motion's carry.
Madam President, I'd like to move resolutions D1 and D2.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Mr. Stice, roll call, please.
Dr. Chand?
Yes.
Mr. Fallon?
Yes.
Mr. Hayek?
Yes.
Mr. Hunsinger?
Yes.
Mr. Morrison?
Yes.
Ms. Potter?
Yes.
Ms. Zober?
Yes.
Dr. Shabilsky?
Yes.
Ms. Raban?
Yes.
And Ms. Barone?
Yes.
Motion's carry.
All right, we're now at our second opportunity for public comment. Again, if you would like to make a comment, please click the link to join us in Zoom. We will admit you into the meeting, and you can state your name and where you're from and provide your comment.
Once we start meeting in person again, I'm going to miss between Peter's cat, Barry's dog. We're not going to have the
I was wondering if that could count as our second like. And it's my daughter's cat. It's not mine.
Yeah,
you're told us that story, huh?
Yours now.
Peter, I'm not. Isn't she in a different state altogether?
Yes.
Here.
Peter, you own a cat now.
Yes, for sure.
Nobody is signing in.
Okay. All right, I'm going to close the second opportunity for public comment. Of course, you also have the opportunity, if you have a comment or a question, to email administration. Other business, I just want to remind everybody, if you can complete your self-evaluation, I have 5, maybe 6. Gwen did say if you get it to her by Friday, that would be insufficient time for her to compile everything so that we can kind of review it before the 17th.
Rita, did you normally Tim, Beth, and I fill that out too, right? Did you guys get that? I don't recall getting it.
So
I didn't.
So it's not, okay, so I didn't know that it was something for you guys to fill out because it's board member self-evaluation. So I'm unclear, but all Gwen told me to do is to tell everybody, and maybe you do, but basically you had to log into New Jersey School Boards New Jersey School Boards Association with your login and basically search for online evaluations or board self-evaluation. Click into it, then you can go through it. There was no link like they would send for the superintendent one. So you have to actually go in through this roundabout way. But once you log in and do it, it comes up. I didn't see an area for administration to report.
I think in the past they usually.
I don't know.
What'd you say, Beth? I'm sorry.
I know I do not, because I asked last year and they said no, that I would not do that.
I know Tim and I'm fine.
You can. You can.
They're delinquent if I don't fill it out by Friday, and it's totally up to you guys. I know Tim and I have in the past, but you can even ask Gwen what she thinks in terms of what.
Yeah, I can ask her. I mean, it just. I'm just going through the questions. It wasn't like a separate one for administration.
No, we did the same. Yeah, we always
fill out the same one. So,
but again,
go ahead and fill it out.
Okay.
More input we have, the better, and on that, the idea being to facilitate board goals and where we want to go, and what we think our challenges are and that kind of thing. And like I said, one of the areas that we've been talking about is this whole idea of communication and culture and that kind of thing. And what can the board do as a board goal in that area? Because it keeps coming up. So
Rita, you said it's on the board retreat is on the 17th of November?
Yes. That was in the original email I sent out.
There's no calendar invite though, right?
No, not yet. No.
I will do that tomorrow.
All right.
And what time are we setting it up for?
7 o'clock is what I held.
Okay, so it's probably what I wrote.
Whatever works for the board. I know sometimes we start it a little earlier depending on how long we think it's going to go. If the board wanted to start it at 6, but again, that's up to what is best for all of you.
Yeah. Can I know I sent out an email. I don't remember. Oh, here it is. 7.
Okay.
I sent out the email on October 16th.
So if we're good with that,
I copied Tim and you on it, on the email. So that was all, that's the way I did it. And it basically said what you had to do. You got to go into the website and
I'm looking, yep, you did send, you're absolutely right. I'm looking at the email right now. You have all the details in there.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep. Do you want me to, I can actually re-forward this to the board, just so everyone has it for reference. And then what I will do tomorrow is
Okay.
I'll set up a Zoom link and a Google Calendar invite for that meeting that everyone can accept.
Okay.
And we got to do the notice and everything, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Right, because it's a board meeting. And then I guess, so would we live stream it? What would we do?
You know what, we, in the past, we
retreats
haven't
we'd have, yeah.
recorded our board retreats, but given things are a little bit different and nobody can come in person, it's probably not a bad idea to do that if the
I don't
board.
see any problem with it. It's not like we're talking about anything secret.
Yeah, but otherwise they have no,
Yeah.
no way to see what's going on. So
Yeah.
we'll set it up just like we do our other board meetings.
Okay. All right. So I just wanted to get that out. And then hands up for other business. I saw Peter and Susan, and I see Dr. Chan's finger. So we'll go with, I don't know who was first, but Susan.
Peter was first.
Peter was first. Okay.
Yeah, I just want to congratulate Borough Councilman-elect Hayek on his election victory. Say we're sorry we're going to be losing him here, but wishing him the best with the continuation of his onward and upward political career.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Fallon. I really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody.
Susan.
I was going to also congratulate Freddie, but I'll also congratulate Peter on being reelected to the school board.
By a strong margin too, I'll add. I wish I won by those margins. That's enviable. Thank you.
Mr. Chan.
Actually, this is what exactly I wanted to do. I wanted to just congratulate both of them, for their election win. Congratulations again.
So we'll have a new board member from Watchung, and we have no idea what's happening in Long Hill. It was a write-in. There's apparently 190 some odd write-ins. We don't know who they're exactly for. I'm assuming we will learn soon.
On the 23rd, hopefully.
And Jordana and Freddie, you're going to be here for the next two meetings, as far as you know, correct? Okay, because we will do a proclamation at the December meeting, and that's when we can all get to say nice things about you. Unfortunately, there won't be cake though, so I apologize in advance.
You could send it to me through the mail, or
we'll make it so you can sit there.
Hey, no, the delivery is going to come. They're going to give you a delivery from the culinary arts program. You can make it yourself.
Uber Eats. There you go. A box of ingredients.
A box of ingredients.
Yeah, we can all make a virtual cake.
The board retreat. But anyway, thank you.
There you go.
All right, any other business? Any other business? No, okay. I think that's it, right? Anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All right, you got that, Tim?
No, not at all.
I think Jordana did the motion.
Okay.
And then
Jordana.
everyone else seconded it.
Okay.
Bye to Barry's dog. Bye-bye.
Bye.